Labor's weakness, its willingness to mislead and dissemble on foreign policy, is laid bare today in the most egregious way. Remember, Anthony Albanese is fresh back from his trip to the communist dictatorship of China, a regime that backs malevolent warmongers like Iran and Russia, and a regime that's bullied Australia economically and militarily. And our Prime Minister did not utter one word of even the mildest criticism of China. He just rolled over. Yet today, the Albanese government joined other jelly-backed governments and issued a statement highly critical of our ally Israel, a country that's fighting for its very existence in a war against Hamas it didn't start. And while it suffered missile attacks from Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis from Yemen, and directly from Iran. This statement calls for a ceasefire, effectively demanding that Israel stop pursuing Hamas, even while a ceasefire approved by Israel has been on the table for Hamas to accept since last week. If you want to understand how bad this statement is, note that it's been welcomed by Hamas itself on social media. Think of that. Australian foreign policy has sunk so low that it's been welcomed by the Hamas Islamist terrorist outfit, the same mob that murders men, women and children, rapes and tortures them, takes them hostage, still holds them hostage and uses its own people as human shields and propaganda tools. And Hamas welcomes the Albanese government's foreign policy. What a sickening moment for our country. Our major ally, the US, describes the statement that Australia has signed as disgusting. It sure is. There's only one reason the war is still going, and that's because Hamas keeps fighting rather than agree to that ceasefire. It's terrorising its own people, keeping Israeli hostages alive and dead, and it's attacking Israel. The more you know about this, the worse it is. The statement Australia put its name to mentions 800 Palestinians killed while accessing aid, and it blames Israel for the denial of humanitarian assistance. This is a deliberate distortion, blatant blame shifting. There's only one reason anyone has died at an aid delivery centre, and that is because Hamas opposes them. Hamas has warned Palestinians not to accept this aid. It's fired on them for trying to get the aid, it's killed aid workers, and it's sparked fighting with Israel that's led to more deaths. Hamas is the problem, not the lack of aid. And why does Hamas do this? Because it wants the United Nations aid deliveries to start again, because the UN gives the aid directly to Hamas. Then Hamas hoards it to feed its terrorists, and it sells the rest of this free aid to the people of Gaza to fund its ongoing war. What a disgrace. Yet Australia signs up to the Hamas version of events. The way much of the media reports this is that Israel and the US have set up an alternative aid delivery system, spending billions of dollars and risking their own lives, and then it's shooting and killing the very people it's delivering its aid to? The claim is absolutely absurd, and it underscores just how insane the anti-Israeli bias is in the media and the broader political world. The only group with a vested interest in disrupting the new aid delivery system is the terrorist group of Hamas. Yet we continue to get jaundiced coverage.
Around 100 people died in this single incident, according to the Gazan Health Ministry. Israel disputes the figure, saying its soldiers came under threat, trying to control a crowd of thousands.
The Gazan Health Ministry is Hamas. Every number and every claim that comes out of Gaza is not to be believed. It all comes directly from Hamas. Yet our politicians here parrot it, and protesters, including outside Parliament House in Canberra today, continue to demonise Israel and provide tacit support for Hamas. This placard yesterday even paraded a photo of Yahya Sinwar and one of his propaganda mouthpieces, both since killed. Sinwar was the leader of the October the 7th massacre, the deliberately grotesque massacre of 1,200 people, including young girls and babies, and the capture of 250 hostages, all designed to spark a war in the name of his Islamist cause. Yet protesters in Australia laud this evil murderer, this deceased Islamist extremist terrorist. What a terrible time for our country to sink to these depths. And the words and actions of our own government give succour to these protesters. Rather than correct the propaganda, rather than insist on facts, our Foreign Minister goes with the flow of the protesters.
I think that statement reflects the real distress that so many Australians feel about what they're seeing in Gaza. They are concerned, distressed by the catastrophic humanitarian situation that we are seeing.
Apart from being wrong-headed, this is an admission that foreign policy is being directed by domestic political intentions. There is no doubt that innocent civilians have been killed in Gaza and are still suffering appallingly. That's the horrible toll of war. This is an ongoing tragedy, and the sooner it ends, the better, and the more Israel does to minimise civilian casualties, the better. But first, the numbers and even specific examples bandied about can't be trusted. They are Hamas propaganda, even often overstating casualties and even inventing claims against Israel. These are lies repeated by Western media, and I've detailed many of them here before. But second, the only reason any suffering is still occurring is Hamas. As I said, there's a ceasefire on the table. There are hostages to hand over. They can stop fighting tomorrow and it's all done. But they don't want peace. They want endless war with Israel. And the more that world opinion from countries like Australia condemns Israel, the longer they'll fight. Because Hamas wants exactly that. The demonisation of Israel is their intoxicant. It makes them believe they can one day eradicate Israel. But so many politicians, journalists and protesters either do not understand this or they pretend not to. Our own Foreign Minister won't even address the reality of the aid crisis that she says needs fixing.
I think it's self-evident that insufficient aid is going into Gaza. I don't think anybody disputes that.
And who's responsible?
Well, yeah, we just want aid to go in. Right, I know that people want a political argument.
No, we want solutions. And the statement Wong signed up to blames Israel for the aid crisis, which is clearly wrong. And from that answer to Andrew Clennell's question, it seems that Wong knows it's wrong because she wouldn't repeat it. Not only is Wong's activist, anti-Israeli stance supported by Hamas, it's also welcomed by the Greens, whose leader is also running wild, unsubstantiated claims.
We are seeing legions of people die by starvation, and we could be doing more to help, and I think Australians want us to do more to help.
Well, there are no facts to support that claim. If legions were dying of starvation, I think the Hamas propaganda machine would have it out there. But listen to how the ABC just opens its microphone for more demonisation of Israel.
Do you believe that genocide is unfolding now in Gaza?
We do believe that, and many other international law experts are also of that view. And this is a crime of starvation. This is innocent civilians who are being sent to an early demise, and hospitals are being bombed. Like, the atrocities are unimaginable to many Australians.
Really? Is Israel committing atrocities? A country that has investigated and answered every allegation made against it? It's the pariah, not the bloodthirsty Islamist jihadists of Hamas? The standard of debate and the spineless journalism on this issue is almost inconceivable. Thankfully, the opposition leader is showing a better understanding of the facts and more moral clarity than we might have expected, given her background with the Parliamentary Friends of Palestine.
The first and most important thing to say about this issue is that there are still hostages in Gaza. There are still hostages hidden in tunnels. And a way to end the situation is for those hostages to be released by the terrorists Hamas, who control so much of the activity there. Of course, we want to see aid reach those who deserve it. But it is so important that Hamas, that has control often over the flow of that aid, but certainly over the ongoing, completely unacceptable detention of those hostages, act in the interests of the people of Gaza. It's very important that we understand where this conflict started and who has the opportunity and responsibility for ending it, and that is Hamas.
Well said. But let me leave the last word to the media. Here's more of Sky News UK.
As the UN called for its stockpiles of food to be allowed in from neighbouring countries, and Britain joined more than 20 other nations to demand an immediate ceasefire, Israel issued displacement orders to thousands more people in Deir el-Balah in central Gaza, showing no sign of wanting the war to end.
Really? Israel doesn't want the war to end? That's the anti-Israeli mindset in a nutshell, isn't it? The one actor in the region that promotes peace just wants people to live peacefully within their own borders. The one liberal democracy operating openly under the rule of law. The one country forced to defend itself from unprovoked attacks by nation states and Islamist terrorists for every day of its existence. The country that has a ceasefire deal on the table, that's the country that doesn't want to end the war. The coverage and debate are just so jaundiced that people don't seem to understand how absurd their words have become.